Hello, and thank you for tuning in to Channel Nubiet. My name is Shatina, and in today's video, I'm going to be sharing my pregnancy experience and childbirthing experience and how it was ultimately pain free for me. And the reason why I want to do this video is because there are women out there who desire to be mothers, there are women who are currently expecting, and you know, when you have that desire and you're about to embark on that journey for yourself, you start to look at others, search for others who have already been there, who have already experienced that. And for the most part, you know pregnancy, childbirth, it's not described as being a comfortable thing, right? It's mostly associated with pain. Oh, it's gonna hurt. Oh, this, just negative. But it doesn't have to be like that. Everyone's experience is different. That certainly was not my experience. And I just want to share that with you all in hopes that it inspires someone, gives someone a different perspective on what it's like to be pregnant, what it's like to give birth. But I do want to make this a point to say that I have been pregnant 2 times in my life. My last pregnancy was about 7 years ago, and um, so the information that I'm going to be sharing, it's to the best of my recollection in the order that I, can best remember it. And so let's start from the beginning. And the beginning is that I have had the desire to be a mom since the age of 15. And I believe that that desire was put in my heart by God. And the reason why I say that God put that in my heart, because at the age of 15, I wasn't thinking about boys. I was a freshman in high school. I was still playing with Barbie dolls. I was not having sex. I didn't even have a boyfriend, and I was very introverted, right? The only person that I consistently interacted with was my sister, and like I mentioned, we're playing Barbie dolls, and this is at the age of 15. And I could just remember one day being in my room and having this feeling to pray and ask God to someday allow me to bear children. And at this time, I didn't have a relationship with God. I knew of him, but I didn't know him. I knew of him as being invisible. I knew of him as being someone that I could pray to and that would answer my prayers. Now, I had been to church as a child a few times, but I was not raised in the church. I wasn't a consistent goer or anything like that. And and most importantly, I didn't know Jesus. I didn't know who Jesus was. I didn't know that he was the Son of God. I didn't know that he was sent to die for the sins of the world so that we could be made right with God and live eternally with him in heaven. I didn't know these things. And to be honest, the closest thing that I had to any type of spiritual nourishment would be during the times when I would wake up from a nightmare and turn the TV on to TBN and watch, whomever is on at the time do praise and worship music. They're singing and dancing and praising the Lord, you know. And so that's what I would use to calm myself down after a nightmare so that I'm able to go back to sleep. So that was my experience with God. I believe he put that in my heart. And also why I want to say that is because fast forward to the age of 20, or 21, I learned that my fertility was challenged. Okay. Um, and I learned that my fertility was challenged because it started off with me experiencing pain in my sides, and then, I was having abnormal bleeding and things like that. And so I was going to a doctor. I went to my primary doctor at the time, and she recommended me to do an ultrasound. She saw something in the ultrasound and referred me to a gynecologist. When I spoke with the gynecologist, she performed her own ultrasound. She ultimately told me that my fallopian tubes were like mini sausages. They were filled with fluid. The condition was called hydrosalpinx, and she told me that my left fallopian tube was much worse than my right. She laid out my options as far as what I could do to correct the condition because with it, it's almost impossible to have children, if not impossible altogether. Okay. So I believe that God put that in my heart to pray that because He knew that my fertility would be challenged. So the doctor tells me that my options are having surgery to remove the left fallopian tube and to allow her to flush the right fallopian tube. And hopefully, that would at least give me some opportunity to bear children in the future. But the downside the to having the procedure is that I would have been down one fallopian tube, and then there was the risk of the other fallopian tube, the one that gets flushed, of it reclosing, and then I would still be in the same predicament that I was in before. So I agreed to that appointment, um, but I didn't show up. I did a no-show. She called me about 3 times, trying to reschedule. I did not answer her calls. I did not return back to her nor to the primary doctor that sent me to her. And I just asked God to, again, allow me to bear children someday. And I prayed that prayer multiple times, throughout the years following that. So, um, so I was dealing with that from the age of 20 or 21 up until about, I want to say, age 24, up until about age 24. um, I remember a doctor that my mom used to take me to as a child, for vaccinations. So I went to her and I brought up the topic of, what I was dealing with the previous doctor that I had. And she basically referred me to a gynecologist that she knew. That gynecologist requested my medical records from the previous doctors, and ultimately she told me that I still had the fluids in my tubes, but they had shrunken. Like it wasn't as much fluid as there was before. And she told me that when I was ready to have children, that she could lay out my options. But as of right now, if I'm not wanting to have children, she recommended me not to worry about it. So I was, hopeful about that, the that the fluid had, you know, decreased some in both tubes. But the left one was still, much worse than the right, but they both ultimately had decreased in size some. So I didn't think any more about that. I was actually, I didn't connect the dots between the praying, and the new information that I was given, until now, actually, as I'm sharing this. Um, but yeah, um, so let's fast forward to age 26. I am newly married, and about a month into the marriage, I find out that I am pregnant. Okay, I'm excited, but at the same time, there were some things going on early on in the pregnancy that had me afraid, and one of those things was bleeding. For the first few months in pregnancy, I understood that it was normal to bleed, but I knew I had a condition, and the condition, when I, had researched the the I guess side effects or whatnot of of getting pregnant, but having hydrosalpinx at the same time, was that the fluid in the tubes are toxic, and so if the fluid was to make its way into the womb, where the embryo or baby is forming, then it could be a toxic, a deadly environment for that child. So the pregnancy would result in a miscarriage, and so me bleeding, I'm thinking something's wrong because I'm doing this. I was bleeding for 3 months, and I was just a mess emotionally behind it, you know. Yeah, for the first few months, I was emotionally upset about it. Um, but I asked God to be with me during that pregnancy, and 4 months, I want to say maybe sometime after the third month into the fourth month, the bleeding stopped. Okay, and from there, it was smooth sailing. Like, my pregnancy was textbook perfect. I didn't have any pain. Um, I did experience my feet growing a size bigger, but you know, I didn't have any medical issues, no complications. My baby was growing normal. I was gaining weight I was gaining weight at a normal rate, and I didn't gain too much weight. It was just awesome. And like I said, I had relatively no pain during my pregnancy. It was a good pregnancy. So let's fast forward to around the time where I'm, to where I just around the time where I'm about to give birth. So a few days before I give birth, or go into labor, I should say, I I visit with my doctor. She tells me I'm about 3 centimeters dilated, and I apologize for looking around and all that. Me looking around is me searching my brain for these memories. Okay, so, um, but yeah, so I visit with my doctor. She tells me I'm 3 centimeters dilated, and I'm on the right track for delivering soon. So, sometime after that appointment, a few days after that appointment, I suffer the most excruciating tummy ache ever. I had eaten some beef stroganoff hamburger helper that I had made, and it just did not agree with my system. It, you know, TMI, but it had me experiencing loose BMs, and it had me vomiting at the same time. So I'm, using the toilet and throwing up at the same time. And while I'm experiencing this pain in my stomach, I'm like, man, if this is anything like what giving birth is like, I can surely do it because I was doing it. I was already doing it. And I had not experienced Braxton Hicks or anything like that. So, or even, if I did, I didn't know that I was because if I ever, I don't know if I did because I didn't feel them. And that was my first pregnancy. So I didn't know what to look out for. Now, with my second pregnancy, I was experiencing them a lot. But with my first, no. But here, but I didn't have pain. That was the only time I had experienced pain, was that tummy ache. And and so I want to say the next day after that, after I'm all well and everything, and the next day, or the next night I should say, I'm getting ready for bed, but I have this urge to poop, and I it's like around 11 something at night, almost 12, whatever. So I go and I, go sit on the toilet to use the toilet, and nothing's coming out. So I'm sitting there for a while, and I'm like, well, I gotta go to work the next day. My off days were Sunday and Monday. That was a Friday. I'm like, I gotta go to sleep, you know. And so after sitting there for I don't know how long, I decide, okay, nothing's coming out. I'm going to go ahead and go to bed. So I get up. Well, I don't get up. I wipe and I look in the toilet and I see blood. I see this clump of blood, and I'm like, I'm not alarmed or anything. Again, I'm not experiencing any pain at this moment or anything. And so I'm like, I want to go to sleep, but instead I chose to call my mom. So I tell my mom what I was experiencing, and I told her I didn't know what to do, and she says, "No, you should go to the hospital." So so she comes and gets me. This is after midnight at this point, and I go to the doctor. I get to the hospital. The hospital's checking me into the maternity ward, and I just remember while they're asking for my insurance information and having me sign all these papers, that this woman, she's being rolled out on a bed, and she's in labor, and she's squirming and screaming, and she just looks like she's in so much pain. And I'm like, whoa, you know, and my water hadn't even broke. Like, I'm not cramping, I'm not doing anything. So I go and sit in the chair once I'm done signing in, and the nurse comes out with a wheelchair, and she, wheels me off to this little area, um, and she takes my vitals and all of that good stuff, and she checks me. She does a cervix check, and she asks me, "Are you in any pain?" And I'm like, "No." She says, "Oh, because you're 8 centimeters dilated." And I'm like, "Really?" And she's like, "Yeah." "And you're not in any pain?" I'm like, "No." So, um, they hook me up to all these machines to track the baby's heart rate and all that, and they call my doctor. They can't get a hold of her, but they're calling her to let her know that I'm in labor. And so I don't know how much time passed, but we're not there very long. But while I'm there, I remember that I had a dream of God helping me to deliver my baby. And so when I recall this dream, I just start singing, "Oh Jesus, oh Jesus, your presence is heaven to me." And I'm singing this song, and my husband is joining in and everything. And um and I guess the nurse thought that I was in pain or something, because she asked me that I want a heating pad. And I wasn't in pain. Like I said, I just remembered the dream and started to sing that. And so just going along with the experience, I say, yeah, I'll I would like the heat pad. And so I roll over to my side, and she places the heat pad under my back. Now, mind you, my water had not broke yet. So the moment I lay on that heat pad, my water breaks, and the nurse is walking off, and I'm like, ma'am, something's happening. And you know, she comes back and she's like, oh, um, well, as soon as you feel the sensation to push, let me know. But don't start pushing, but let me know. And she said that she was going to go and call the doctor again. So, still no success with getting the doctor. And so, some time passes. I don't know how long, but some time passes. And I feel the urge to push. So, I tell her I feel like pushing. She's like, hold on, your doctor's not here yet, this, that, and the other. So, Um, so they keep walking in and out for a few minutes, but little do they know is because I have that feeling to push, I'm pushing. And so finally the nurse comes in and she says, "Do you want to just start pushing?" I'm like, "Yeah," because and to myself, I'm saying I already started. And right when she says that, not my doctor that was supposed to deliver my baby came, but her backup came. She showed up, and within within seconds, we're pushing, and I'm not experiencing any pain during the pushing. I'm not experiencing the contractions or anything like that. And but what I yeah, but what I do feel is this burning sensation, down in my private parts. And I'm not medicated, I didn't opt for an epidural or anything because, like I said, I did not have any pain. The only pain close to, I can't even call it pain, it was just like a tolerable burning sensation that I felt, when my child was coming out. And and she came out after like 3 pushes. And the worst part about the you know the child birthing was the stitches. That's what hurt me the most. But even with the numbing solution that they were putting down there, it's that part hurt. But bringing my child into this world, that part did not hurt. Carrying her did not hurt physically. Physically, there was minimal pain, okay? Emotionally, there may have been because, like I said at the beginning, there was, you know, that, that uncertainty that I would be able to carry her to full term. But I did. And the same thing with, my second pregnancy. you know, I gained more weight that time. It was a little less textbook, you know. I had some unusual cravings. Um, but pain wise, it was not so, you know. Um, but I will say with my second pregnancy, the there wasn't pain, but there was discomfort because of the fact that when it came time to push, when I had the urge to push with my son, um, the water hadn't broken, and when I was pushing, I was actually pushing him with the water bag. But as soon as the doctor burst the water bag, all of that discomfort went away, and I just felt, the burning from him coming out, and then, the stitches. The, for both pregnancies, the stitches was the worst part. The stitches was the worst part. But that was my experience. I believe that that I was able to go through that so that I could that I could share it. And for any moms that are out there, moms to be, anyone that desires to be a mom, so your experience will be your experience. I believe that it's all about your mindset and what you believe in. And, in my case, I believed in God to help me through. And, you know, I hope that by me sharing this, you have a hope, you have a different perspective, and you have taken some encouragement from it above all things. And so I thank you for watching. I hope that you tune in to the next video, and until next time, I hope you have a good day, good night, whatever, you know, whatever day or time it is that you encounter this video. Thanks for watching. Take care.